This is a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. In this video, I'm going to go over the exterior as well as the interior, go over some engine data, and go over the overall specifications of this car. First, let's start with the exterior. Now, if you follow me to the front of the car, it's unlike most Jeep Grand Cherokees. It's got a much longer, lower front. Down here, we got a nice lower black splitter, along with this nice camera for the radar assisted cruise control. As well as in 2017, they added this nice little air vent here to add extra airflow into the car. Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT has this nice blacked out grille right here. And if you come over here, they've added as well these LED fog lamps down here integrated within the different vents down below. Now, obviously, we got the nice looking LED headlights as well with the SRT. If you follow me to the hood, we've got these nice vents that allow air to come out of the engine for better cooling, making sure the engine is always at operating temperature. Now, if you follow me to the side, we're greeted by these gigantic, meaty 295 tires. They're wearing these nice 20-inch black wheels, which I think look absolutely awesome. You've also got these red 6-piston Brembo brake calipers with slotted rotors in the front. Now, if you follow me to the side, you can kind of tell that this is definitely not a normal Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's much wider, it's much lower, and these extended wheel arches on the front and on the rear. Everything on this car is either painted to match, or in this case, everything is blacked out. Now we move on to the rear of the SRT, where as you can see on this particular model, the SRT badge has been removed in place with a Calgary Hyundai logo there. But if you come down to the bottom here, you're greeted by these massive tips. Obviously, there's two on either side instead of two in the middle, like the original generation SRT8. In the middle now, we have this nice SRT cover, which covers the tow hitch, and this car can tow up to 7,000 pounds, which is crazy for a car that has this much performance and sounds this good. Now moving on, we have these nice rear taillights here. Got this nice blacked out look on the bottom, as well as a bit of a tint going on up top. Now we've got the rear deck lid spoiler, which helps to improve drag and increase downforce if you're going around a corner. Now that we're at the rear of the car, let's talk about trunk space. Now, located right here is going to be the actual cubic feet of the trunk space back here, but I'm going to show you me getting into it by doing a trunk test. Now, like in the Santa Fe, there's plenty of room for me back here, and if I fold the seats down, there's even more room, and that's going to be located right about on the left side of the window. Now we move on to the other side of the car, the driver's side. Now what I want to do is take a quick look on the interior here, where you're greeted by these nice leather and Alcantara seats with nice glossy carbon fiber on the side here. We'll go over more of the rear and the front interior later on in the video. Just want to show you a quick look to get going. Obviously, the front up here as well, greeted by nice SRT side sills there, as well as an SRT floor mat. Now let's talk about the power plant in the 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. This car is a 6.4 liter Hemi V8 producing 475 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Let's get a look at that engine, shall we? Now here it is, the 6.4 liter Hemi V8. I think we should hear how it sounds, hey? Now that we've heard how the engine sounds, let's go get a crazy loud exhaust clip. Now that we've gone over the exterior, as well as gotten an engine note and an exhaust clip, let's go for a drive. Now, as always, before we start this review, I'd like to say a special thank you to Calgary Hyundai. They're the ones who loaned me this Jeep for the day. Special shout out to them for loaning me cars that aren't even a Hyundai. Now, if you want to go check them out, they've got a huge selection of new and used cars, like this Jeep and the Santa Fe and the Veloster that I reviewed before. Extremely welcoming staff, very friendly, just an overall great place to buy a car from. Link in the description below, as well as the link to this exact car which is for sale. Go check them out. So the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. Let's go for a drive in it. So as I said before, this car is powered by a 6.4 liter Hemi V8 producing 475 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Now, obviously, this power plant needs to be attached to something that is going to be able to handle that amount of power. And Jeep has thrown in a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission that shifts so well that if I put it into custom mode, it shifts really quick. It's almost dual clutch feeling the way it shifts that fast. It feels great, especially if you're in automatic. So if I put it back into automatic, it shifts nice and easy. You don't get this crazy exhaust note when you're just in automatic. It's nice and smooth. There's no jumpiness about it at all. Now, this transmission has the option of just automatic, or you can use these steering wheel mounted paddles here, which have great actuation, as well as if you shift it over into manual mode on the gear lever, forward is downshift and back is upshift. Very race inspired, and I like that. But like I said before, it's really easy to use. Now let's talk about the comfort within the cabin of this Jeep SRT. Now I can tell you one thing, that it's very comfortable. These seats are super snug and they feel great when you sit in them. It's got this nice kind of soft cloth material in the middle, as well as this nice leather on the sides and on the back as well. And in terms of suspension, when I'm in automatic, the suspension soaks up all the bumps really well. You don't really feel them. Obviously, this car is a little bit lower than the standard Jeep Grand Cherokee, but if I throw it into sport mode, I'm going to start feeling these quite a bit more because it does have active dampers. I'm going to go over a couple bumps here. I feel them a bit more. Steering's a little bit stiffer. And now if I go all the way into track mode, it's quite bumpy. You know, you feel everything. It's very stiff. But like I said, if you're just doing everyday driving, keep it in auto and you'll have no problems whatsoever. So now I'm sitting in the back, and I'm going to tell you what it feels like to be back here. Now my driver's going to floor it right now. Holy moly, it's hot back here. All right, that was interesting. Now in terms of what we have back here, we've got rear heated seats, a nice 118 volt AC here, as well as 2 USBs so that you can charge your devices back here. The carbon fiber trim extends to the rear as well, and I'm also greeted by this massive panoramic sunroof. Now, just for reference, I'm about 6'2", and I still have probably an inch of headroom, and I have no problems whatsoever with knee room. It's actually very spacious back here. It should be. It's a pretty large SUV, but it feels very comfortable back here. In terms of in-cabin noise, what you mainly hear, because this car has an aftermarket exhaust system, is that exhaust note. And there is quite a bit of drone if I'm just lightly, going on it. I'm sitting around 1500 RPM and all I hear is exhaust note. And if it's loud in here. Obviously, I don't know what it's going to be like, with stock exhaust, but it is very, very loud in here. You don't hear much road noise. It's mainly just exhaust note. Now let's talk about interior quality on the SRT. Now, the SRT has all the bells and whistles that the highest Jeep Grand Cherokees have. And everything in here is very soft to the touch, very nice to the feel. The steering wheel is very chunky, feels very sporty. As well as the, wow, this thing is fast, holy crap. Anyway, back to the interior. It's got this nice gloss carbon fiber wrapped around the middle of the entire interior. Looks very good. I know it's real too, so it's awesome. The window controls and the mirror controls look pretty cheap, I'll be honest about that. But everything else feels very tight in here. Everything's premium materials, and it's just a lovely place to sit. Let's talk about cornering on the SRT. Now this car, obviously, if I keep it in auto, it's a little bit looser, but if I throw it into track mode, Feels good. Coming around these corners, there's little to no body roll because it is so track oriented. And obviously in track mode, it stiffens everything up and makes it feel just that much better. Take a second and listen to that noise. It sounds so good. Oh my word. Especially with this exhaust, it just sounds absolutely ridiculous. Now let's talk about fuel economy on this car. Now, I'm gonna go based on how it's been performing for me in the past couple of hours. So in terms of driving in city-like conditions, I'm averaging about 19.7 liters per 100 kilometer, which is not very good. Now, if we move on to the highway fuel economy, it is a little bit better. I was averaging around 14 liters per 100 kilometer on the highway, which still isn't great, but it is definitely better than 19.7. Now I'd like to go over the 3 things that I love the most about this SRT and the 3 things that I think could be improved upon. Now let's start with the things that I love the most about this car, and that is number 1, the speed. This thing is an absolute speed demon. Now 0 to 60 takes, it's quoted 4.9 seconds, and I believe it. If you look through, the SRT performance pages, the fastest this one has done is 4.9. So obviously it can do it. Now number two I'd have to say is all of the different options and features within the central touchscreen area. You've got the SRT performance pages, you've got all these cool features, and you can set up the car however you'd like. It just makes it, bespoke to however you want to drive it. There's so many different ways you can program it. So if you want to just go for a nice cruise, go for a nice cruise. If you want to lay down rubber, you can lay down rubber. It's all up to you and at your fingertips on this screen here. Number 3. Now number 3 is the overall materials within the interior. Besides the window switches, which are made out of cheap plastic, the roof is made out of a nice Alcantara-like headliner, as well as the seats, which have this nice piece in the middle as well, and the leather on the outside. Everything is just nice to the touch. The gear lever, the knobs, all of it just feels really nice. It's all soft, nothing is out of place. It's like sitting in a very luxurious car. Now let's go over the things that I think could be improved upon within this SRT. Now number one, I've said it a couple times and I'm gonna keep saying it. It's these window switches. Everything else in this car is very, very nice. It's an $80,000 car, right? But for some reason it has these really cheap, window switches and stuff, and I just think it looks out of place. It looks weird. And that's definitely something I think could be improved upon. Number two is, it's a given. You're buying a 6.4 liter V8, but it's the fuel economy. It is brutal. You're going to be stopping at the gas station more than you are going to be driving this car. Now, I will say this though, when you drive it, it's absolutely amazing. Now number three is a bit of a weird one, but it's the actual key fob on the SRT. It's made out of this cheap plastic, and it looks like it's from 15 years ago. I think they could just use a refresh. If you look at the new Mercedes key or stuff like that, it's very nice to hold and stuff. And I think that the SRT could use something like that because it is a special car. I hope you guys liked the review on this 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. If you did, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more videos from us, subscribe and turn the notification bell on so that you're up to date to our newest videos. We'll see you next week. I'm spinning outside the window. I'm spinning outside the window. I'm spinning outside.